Gotcha. I'm quite sure that if time were to allow it, each and every one of us could speak autobiographically about the impact that the Right Reverend Dr. Edward Joseph and Mrs. Deborah Lynn Knietsky have had on our lives. We could speak of their unflappable and abiding faith in the midst of sometimes raging storms that have battered against the church, that old ship of Zion, as my forebears called it. We could reminisce about their pastoral sensitivities and concerns for all of the people of God entrusted to their care. We could stand in awe and wonder at their ability to bestow wit and wisdom upon all who have taken the time to listen and learn from their decades of experience in the public and private sectors. We could laud their accomplishments in building bridges of unity between peoples of various cultures and fostering deep and meaningful dialogues among the multitude of faith communities at home and abroad. We can all testify to Bishop Ed and Debbie's tireless vigor and vision for empowering the clergy and the laity to live out the way of love, which has helped to catapult this diocese to an international status par none. We can all expound upon these characteristics, these attributes and accomplishments, and so much more. And we should do all of the aforementioned because it is meet and right so to do. But because this former Black Baptist was only allowed about 3 Episcopal minutes, and in the time that's been allotted to me, Bishop, I want to speak briefly about the impact that you and your bride of over 40 plus years have had on me and Cecilia and the people who call St. Augustine their church home. Because the truth be told, I wouldn't be standing here if it were not for your prophetic insight, your constant prodding, and your winsome persuasion. Because, Right Reverend Sir, I believe it was 2008, in the parish hall of Trinity Episcopal Church in Tulsa, that I sat across from you at a table. And we had a conversation in which you encouraged me to ponder my future and to give prayerful consideration about the next 25 years of my ministry. You told me to think about where and in what denomination I might have the greatest impact. And you advised me to always consider my wife and children and what would be best for them. And so I mused over your words. And after you asked me once, twice, 3 times, somebody finished it out for me. I made that magnanimous move from the ELCA to the Episcopal Church. A move that...
Yes! Yes, sir.
It was because of you and your impactful influence. I said yes to coming to the Episcopal Church and yes to serving St. Augustine's. It was due to your forward thinking and broad visioning that St. Augustine is emerging into a bright phoenix emerging from the ashes, daring to burn with the Spirit's power, and seeking to become an example to all congregations of the endless potential and possibilities God has for them, no matter how small you might be. It's because of your legendary leadership that I am invigorated each and every day to try to make a difference in our world, no matter how small that difference may be, because collectively those little things will have a huge impact. I once heard it said that we stand on the shoulders of our ancestors to see greater heights. Well, Bishop, my bishop, my mentor, my brother, there is no doubt that you are head and shoulders above the rest. But because of you and Debbie's countless sacrifices, because you dared to constantly challenge the clergy and the congregations of this magnificent diocese to live up to our God-given potential and to strive for the very best, we can look to the beautiful vista, and we can journey into a bright future with our heads held high, standing on the shoulders of one of God's great giants. Bishop and Mama Bishop, we love you. Well done, good and faithful servants. Well done.
Yes, sir. Amen. Yes.
Particularly when you've been asked to talk about finances. But I do my best. We ask a lot of our bishops. They are the spiritual leader of 150 clergy and 16,000 members. They visit 71 congregations on an annual basis. They represent our diocese in the House of Bishops. We expect them to be the CEO of a complex organization with an annual budget approaching $7 million, along with a camp and conference center, 5 schools, and 2 retirement homes. During our last search in 2006, the diocesan assessment, now known as mutual ministry support, was 21.5% of the parish's income. Every one of the candidates we interviewed told us the rate was too high and was indicative of an unhealthy diocese. Fast forward to the 2019 search for our bishop coadjutor. The committee developing the diocesan profile could not help but marvel at how attractive our diocese had become and the degree to which resources have multiplied under Bishop Ed's leadership. One of Bishop Ed's first goals was to shift the scope of work for our church from the diocesan level to the parish level. Implicit with this was the need to shift resources back to the parishes and reduce the level of mutual ministry support. Bishop Ed restructured the diocesan staff to support this realignment and began to diversify the revenue sources of the diocese. In 2006, the Diocese of Oklahoma had an endowment of $42 million with investment results in the 74th percentile of 7 similarly sized endowments. Seeking a higher level of performance, Bishop Ed proposed consideration of a new investment advisor. After thoughtful evaluation of several qualified firms, Elby Associates was selected. For the last 10 years, this endowment has outperformed similarly sized endowments by 50 basis points. The portfolio has grown to $52 million, and $25.5 million has been distributed to support the annual budget and fund projects throughout the diocese at such institutions as St. Crispin's, Holland Hall, and Cassidy School. In Oklahoma, our bishop is tasked with managing oil and gas properties that have been gifted to the diocese. While these produced a small income, it was an overlooked area in the overall scheme of our operations. In consultations with experts within our diocese, Bishop Ed organized and reevaluated all of our mineral holdings. New leases are now obtaining competitive terms, resulting in both higher per acre leases and royalty rates for the diocese. Oil and gas revenue went from $600,000 per year to a high of $3 million, and they're currently running $1.3 million per year. So today, our diocesan budget of $6.4 million is $700,000 lower than it was in 2006. Diocesan level expenses have been reduced by $1.5 million, while support for congregations and ministry development has increased 25%. The mutual ministry support has been reduced from 21.5% to 16%, while raising the same amount of revenue as in 2006. We ask to allow Bishop Ed, and since his arrival in Oklahoma, he has increased the stability and vitality of our diocese. He has risen to every financial challenge from the time of his consecration to this day. For this, we are grateful.
Thank you. That last speech was very, very important, but I can assure you I will not use the phrase basis points at any point in these remarks. I suppose some of you are not from Oklahoma City, so it's my obligation to welcome you to our capital city and to our beautiful Hall of Mirrors. I want to say a few words about the impact that Bishop Ed has had in really broadening the tent of Episcopalianism, is that a word? And Christianity, definitely a word, here in our state. Let me back up and say that being in elective office, I'm something of an amateur expert on social media. This makes me something of an amateur expert on human sociology in modern America. So I do my own, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and social media has not been known of late to be the place where people, illustrate the better angels of their nature, right? So the comments I will see, on my post, regardless of the topic, sometimes, depict some of the most hateful, vile, and bigoted things you could imagine. And these are not people whose profile pictures are then wrapped in a Confederate flag or something. These are like little old ladies who post pictures of their grandkids. And being the, again, the amateur sort of sociological expert that I am, I'm curious. I'll go to their page. I want to see what kind of person would post these sort of things and say these horrible things. And invariably, it is really, I'll go to their bio, right? Okay, if you're a Facebook user, right at the top of the page, it's like 2 sentences that sum up who you are. I'll go to this page of this little old lady who said, these horrible, bigoted, and hateful things on my page. And I'll go to her page, and invariably, her bio will be strong Christian woman, loves Jesus.
Of course.
Now, I am not a biblical scholar, but I think this is what you call a modern Pharisee. Let me put this into context. You may be wondering where I'm going with this. My point is, our bishop is no Pharisee. He has loved all and welcomed all into our church. There are some notable examples of this. The way he has elevated the LGBT community and welcomed them into our churches. He navigated a very difficult issue in our own diocese, and then he became really an international leader on this issue just as recently as a year ago, where he was called courageous for the way that he guided that discussion at the international level and guided the international church towards compromise and understanding, and a welcoming nature that reflected, the love that we should have for all of God's children. The Native American community which obviously is very important here in Oklahoma, but he understood that. He has elevated the story of Oklahoma and welcomed that community, which is so vital to our state's history. The Latino community, he proactively and intentionally fostered the growth of churches in South Oklahoma City and in Tulsa. This is a community that the little old ladies on my Facebook page don't always like. But they are part of the Oklahoma experience, and they are certainly human beings worthy of respect and dignity, and they are people who should be welcomed, if no other place, certainly into the Church of God. And I just want you to understand how meaningful Bishop Ed's work has been in our city and our state in setting that tone that we love everybody and we welcome everybody. And if the church doesn't do that, then who in the world is going to?
Say that.
And so he has taken on that obligation with gusto, and I'm very proud of him for that. I'm very grateful to him for that. And so I just wanted to thank you, Bishop, on behalf of the people of Oklahoma City, whom I supposedly speak for, and all the people of Oklahoma, I believe, who really appreciate the loving way and the welcoming way that you have carried about your work. And it is certainly befitting the title that you will always hold to us. Bishop Ed, thank you so very much.
Well, as I look around the room this evening and I see so many people to whom I'm connected by bonds of affection, and I look at the list of the other speakers and I see so many people that I admire and respect, I think that this is a appropriate setting to pay tribute to a man, to a couple for whom I have such admiration and respect and affection. I'd like to start by naming a few of the attributes that I think have made Bishop Ed successful and that make him who he is. In terms of management style, I think you could say Bishop Ed is hands-on and detail-oriented. That's what makes him effective. That sounds so much nicer than control freak. I think. But I don't want to exaggerate that. He did not change any of the words in my text or comments tonight. He tweaked the font and the margins, and it does look better, so we're good. So, another thing, Bishop Ed commands a room. He's a big guy, and he often still displays that tough cop demeanor. So he can be imposing and even come across as intimidating sometimes, and probably uses that to his advantage. But here too, people's imaginations can run ahead of the truth. I do not believe that Bishop Ed regularly makes Siri and Alexa cry. I believe he makes them sweat. Bishop Ed is strong and he's tough, but if you've been around him long, you know that he has a big heart, and there are times when his emotions rise to the surface. Sometimes he can get choked up with compassion in the face of the world's pain and injustice, or with gratitude at the opportunities and support with which he has been blessed, or with humility as he recognizes God's grace and goodness, and at any of those times you may see tears. I respect that. I think that demonstrates his deep humanity, which I value in a person of authority. It's kind of like when Spock's human side leaks out a little bit. I want to talk briefly about one of Bishop Ed's legacies and disguises, the Oklahoma Iona School of Formation. I wish I had time to talk more about deacon formation, because I think the diaconate is an important and powerful mode of ministry in the Episcopal Church. But for the sake of time, I'm going to instead say a little bit about bivocational priests. For those of you who are not aware, typically a bivocational priest in the Episcopal Church is a woman or a man who feels a call to ordained ministry, but who's not in a position to devote 3 years of full-time study at seminary, often because they already have a full-time job as a veterinarian or a nurse or a police officer or a judge, to pick a few examples from our graduates. So back in his early days in Oklahoma, Bishop Ed tasked Jose McLaughlin, then canon of the ordinary, with finding a way to provide a local formation process for bivocational priests. The result was a partnership with the Iona School in the Diocese of Texas. At first we sent our postulants down there to Texas, but since 2012, we have had our own school here in Oklahoma that meets monthly at St. Crispin's. What that means is that today, congregations all over the diocese, in Owasso and Altus, and Wagner and Perry, and Claremore, and Sepulpa, and Eufaula, all these congregations and many others have the services of a priest who received training in the Iona program. That has made a huge difference to the worshipers in those congregations. And Bishop Ed deserves the credit for, as we might say, the creation, preservation, and all the blessings of this program through his vision, leadership, and support. I want to finish up with a short poem, especially for those of you who have struggled over the years with pronouncing the bishop's name. There are 2 verses, so please hold your groans. Now you've hit the final stretch. We want to check our memory's etch. We think we managed. We snagged us quite a catch. The days and years our recalls fetch. This special times our memories sketch. We thank you now, Bishop Ed. We think of all the ways you led, both with your heart and with your head, the times you gave us wine and bread, and other ways our souls were fed, and other ways God's kingdom spread. Thank you, Bishop Konietzny.
You know, as I was preparing my remarks tonight, I thought about the last time Bishop Ed and I were together. It was for lunch a couple of weeks ago. And you know, when you greet someone, you kind of start with, "Hey, how you doing?" And you move on into the conversation. And that's how it starts with Bishop Ed. And so we're into the conversation a little while, and as he does with me, and I'm sure with most of you, you get to a point where he says, so how are you really doing? And he means it. And so it gives you a chance to kind of think back and, you know, well, how am I really doing? And so if you've had something that's been a success or something joyful in your life and you share it with him, he's happy for you. And he's pleased with it, and it gives you a moment to kind of reflect on that and be thankful for the blessing that you've had or the opportunity that was presented to you. And you know, if you've had a little difficult time and you share that with him, you kind of feel the embrace it gives you of compassion, and he listens to you and always with a willing ear and works you through that. If it's appropriate, he might have some counsel for you, and let's be honest, he might even give you a little kick in the butt if he thinks you need it, and kind of move you along your way. So it's just that moment with him that you have with him that just, I think, instills you in a way that really kind of brings you back. And you know, he's so approachable, very spiritual, but approachable as a friend and as someone to be with. And it always calls me back to, gee, I really look forward to the next time I'm together with him. It's just part of that being in his presence that helps you. You know, he's always gives good counsel. It's usually pretty short, sometimes blunt, but you really never leave that moment from Bishop Ed going, "Oh, I wonder what you really thought about that." Or, you know, it's a really wordy response. I mean, you've been sent on your way with a mission, and he's made sure that you understand what he said, and that's constructive, and that's certainly helpful, and certainly something that I've always appreciated about him. He's fun-loving though, whether you're on the golf course with him. For those of us that have had a chance to play around with him, it's always an adventure. Whether Debbie has provided him with a new set of clubs, perhaps in the last year, or he's just finished a golf lesson. But it's an enjoyable time with him. He's been known to joke and kid a little bit. He's been known to trash talk you a little bit while you're on the golf course. That's the competitive side of him coming out. But an experience, much like having dinner with the two of them as well. They're a fascinating couple. His travels and his adventures that he shares with you, but all the places in the world that he's been, and what he's seen and what he's experienced, are enlightening and deep. dinner in their home, which Tina and I have been fortunate to have, is quite a treat. And watching them entertain guests in that environment and how just into the experience and into the evening and into the fellowship they are is extraordinary. And you know, it's always a production, as you would expect with Bishop Ed and Debbie, so it might be they've flown in seafood for a dinner. Bishop Ed, of course, was in the middle of the kitchen and directing traffic and moving along, and Debbie's being very patient with him. But creative too, so you might have a murder mystery with an 8-course meal, and Debbie's provided you with a role that you're going to play that evening, and you need to be prepared for it when you show up. You might have to wear a toga, if I remember right, and it's always an experience. You know, and if you're really lucky, Debbie would have had some of her lavender cookies ready for you on the way out the door, and if you're really, really lucky, there might be a small bottle of homebrew limoncello that goes with it too. So they're, from a hospitality standpoint, they're an extraordinary couple in that regard. And you know, just from a personal standpoint, I think we've all had an experience with Bishop Ed that kind of defines it as a friend. For Tina and I, it was, you think about, all right, who was with us during a really memorable time in our lives? And for us, it was our daughter's wedding in Utah. And we're out there, and on the wedding day comes around, storm clouds all over the place. And I'm kind of standing there by myself before the wedding ceremony, and I'm looking at my phone, and the radar doesn't look good. It looks awful, as a matter of fact. And I'm by myself for some reason. Nobody's around, and I kind of look up trying to decide, all right, are we going to have this elaborate outdoor event that Tina and our daughter had planned, or are we going to move into the banquet hall and have it downstairs in the lobby? And Bishop Ed's standing there next to me, and I look up at him, and yeah, I don't know. He said, it'll be all right. Come on, let's go. And so we go. And we're out there, and sure enough, the wind comes up, and the thunder and lightning comes up, and the rain comes up, and it's all around, but not on us. And I'm thinking, well, heck, he's the bishop, right? So he made the call, right? If anybody has this under control, I think I'm in the right place here. And sure enough, so we're there. The ceremony rolls along. The wind's up. The canopy on the ceremony thing is moving around. Bishop Ed's standing there holding it in place, and Father Bright and Father Marlon carrying on with the service. And it's one of the most memorable times in the life of Tina and I and our family. But I never think about that without thinking about Bishop Ed. Just kind of that moment where, Mr. Confidence, it'll be okay, let's go. And as it turns out, it was a beautiful event. And he takes the same part from a friendship standpoint. He brought that to All Souls. When he first came here, let's be honest, we're All Souls. So we're kind of old school folks, and we're those people for a while at the time. And Bishop Ed embraced us, though, and said this is 2008, and asked us to host the convention that year. And the impact it had both, I think, on our parish and the parishioners in our parish, and our interaction with the diocese was extraordinary. I've never seen our parish more excited and more enthusiastic about an event and about hosting something. I think we had more volunteers than there were people that attended from across the state, and really opened us up and opened the diocese up, I think, for us, and really led to our engagement in the broader diocese and family. And for that, I'm very thankful for. Since then, our parishioners have worked with you on a lot of important community events at Cassidy School, where you've been an extraordinary leader there on the board. At a time when the school, I know, needed you as well. We talked to a couple of the board members who said you were just a rock, and as you always are throughout. And these opportunities, I think, allowed us to see your professionalism, which is what we've heard tonight, your commitment, the integrity you bring to everything you do. Gave us a greater appreciation for you and for the people in our parish who interact with you on a regular basis. And I think, as most of you know, the last 2 years have been pretty eventful for us at All Souls. And I'm going to read this because I get a little emotional sometimes. He's been a wonderful counselor and a pastor during this time. The son lost of Father Bright and Rhea's son Eric in the summer of 2018 was felt deeply and our parish to the core. Father Bright had been with us for almost 25 years as a beloved rector and caring priest, and their sons are truly sons of our parish. The loss was devastating. We saw Bishop Ed embrace Patrick and Rhea in a pastoral love and compassion, and remain by their side, along with Father Yoder in our parish for the next year. As Patrick would say, this was God's providence, that a tragedy would allow the circumstances for Bishop Ed and Father Yoder to have greater interaction with one another, as they provided support and pastoral care for Father Bright during this time, and for our parish as well. And lastly, Bishop Ed's willingness to engage and walk with us, providing us counsel over a lengthy period of discernment, as also as contemplated the transition to our next rector, was extraordinary. His candid and trusting relationship with Father Bright, and their confidential conversations during over a 2-year period leading up to this were crucial for us. His confidence in the thoughtful efforts of our wardens and vestry, and his relationship and understanding of our parish, I mean that he understands our parish because he's with us, allowed him to support our calling of Father Yoder and brought us through a generational period in our parish. Bishop Ed, thank you from a grateful parish. You've been honorable as our bishop, and I am honored to call you my friend. Tina joins me in saying you and Debbie have been blessings in our lives, and I know in many in the room, well, everyone in the room. We wish you the best in retirement, the enjoyment of the fruits of your labor, and the reflection on a job well done in his service. After some rest and perhaps a lot of golf, I hope I can participate in some of that with you. We hope to see you ease back into a little preaching meeting and perhaps celebrate at the altar occasionally. In closing, I have a message from Father Bright, whom I spoke with this morning, as he can say it better than I. Dear Bishop Ed and Debbie, Rhea and I send our love and best wishes to you on this happy celebration of your ministry and tenure as Bishop of Oklahoma. I remember clearly your calling for a new season of ministry after your election, and you have lived into that and led the diocese into a season which has borne much good fruit. Thank you for your sincere and solid leadership, for your pastoral care for those committed to your charge, and especially for Rhea and me and our family during a most difficult time, and for your friendship over these last 13 years. And if we may, and of course this is from Patrick, he took it from the Canadian Book of Common Prayer. O Almighty God, who by your Son, Jesus Christ, did give your Apostle Peter many excellent gifts, and commanded him earnestly to feed your flock, we give thanks for the diligent ministry of Edward and the loving witness of his wife Debbie. Bless them both as he retires as Bishop of Oklahoma, and grant that when the chief shepherd shall appear, they, with all your people, may together receive the crown of everlasting glory. Through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you very much, Bishop Ed and Debbie, esteemed clergy, Mary and Rachel, and good friends. It would certainly be understandable if you were asking yourself, what in the hell am I doing sitting here? Well, I did go to Cassidy, and I did attend our beloved chapel every day. And it's true, and somewhere on the record, that Father Bright at a public service in the chapel at All Souls said, based on my friendship to the parish and the sponsorship of Christian Jimmy, I could be an associate member of the All Souls. So that's my standing tonight. All that's been said is just right on, and we all can feel that and know that and believe all those beautiful words. I kind of think about sitting next to Bishop Ed at an NBA game, and we're both screaming profanities at the officials. I thought, I can keep doing this. He's doing it. and it didn't change their mind. We never got any calls. But I'll be brief, and just to say that it was about the time that Bishop Ed and Debbie came to Oklahoma, was about the time the team came. And it had been a very difficult process, and it had been very difficult for me and Louise and our family. And I'd gotten to know Bishop through the board at Cassidy School. And game changer is not a strong enough word for what he brought to the board and what he brought to the school and what he brought to the vision and the hope of Cassidy School. And but we connected there, and he saw my trouble, and one fine day called me and said, "I want to see you." And again, we didn't know each other all that well, but just through our board service and kind of being connected that way. And it wasn't just to kind of ask me how I'm doing and what can I be helpful with and let's talk. It was like, embrace me, look me in the eye, got my attention, and talked to me in a way I really haven't been talked to maybe ever. Looked me in the eye, I respected what he was saying, he knew what he was doing, he knew how he was affecting me. I could feel it, and in many ways, he kind of saved me. I was just treading and fighting and not doing well. And he brought me back to a life, you know, to family, to what we're doing every day, to what really matters. This stuff we can take care of, but focus on what it's all about. And I'm forever grateful to you, sir, for that. You guys have been awesome friends to Louise and I. Debbie, thank you. Debbie remembers me all the time with beautiful things and gifts and messages, and it's just been a really special friendship, and we're very, very grateful to both of you. Wish you all the very best. Cannot wait to spend more time with you. Bishop and I were at coffee the other day to talk about maybe what's ahead. Interested in criminal justice reform, interested in, you know, perhaps some other nonprofit initiatives, other things. The sky's the limit on what he can do and what he can help us with in Oklahoma, and we're so happy and proud and excited that you're going to stay in Oklahoma and be with us. Love you. Thank you.